started, so let's go. I'm gonna go over here. Hey, friends, how are we doing today? Just testing the technology here for a minute. Hey friends, Svava Brooks here. If you are new to our group and this is your first webinar with us, welcome. So glad you found us. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful community of survivors, thrivers, and supporters. And as you've noticed, my friends, I'm kind of stepping up my activity in the group now. So if you're here, please say hello. Please let us know. Hey, Bobby, good to see you. Let us know that you're here and introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from and what brings you to this topic. But I want to introduce you guys to my new friend, Lorna, and I will have her introduce herself in a minute. But part of my healing journey, as you guys know, has been as I'm learning to connect and heal myself, heal my body, I started to care a whole lot more about my body and realize that the healing journey is kind of like an endurance sport. And because it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of, I'd say, persistence and mostly energy. I think it's important, and it has served me very well to start to pay attention to both the food that I'm eating, making sure I get rest, make sure I drink a lot of water, and also starting to pay attention to the things that are environment. And I was exposed to tea tree oil, probably like 15 years ago. And that was when I really went and cleaned out my house of all the toxic household cleaners that I had. And I've kind of dabbled in essential oils since then, but I feel like so many of us are exploring different ways to replace things from, Western medicine or pharmaceutical products. And so when Lorna and we actually were both interviewed by a colleague and a friend, Laura, on a recent summit, I just, your energy and your presence and your message just really, really resonated with me, Lorna. You were so down to earth that I really felt inspired and wanted to bring you to educate my people. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's always amazing to connect with people halfway across the globe. The power of the internet. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I was listening to your introduction and I nearly forgot that I was here. I was just actually absorbed in what you were saying.
Great. Well, we both come from little islands, don't we? I'm originally from Iceland, and why don't you tell our friends where you're coming from?
Yeah, so I'm in Ireland. So I'm from Ireland and I'm here living in Ireland most of my life, all of my life. And it's evening time here and I'm looking out at the dark, gloomy day. And it was, so it was on, will I introduce myself a little bit, how I got to be here talking to you today? Okay,
yes.
So I'll start. I guess, I know we're going to talk about essential oils today, but my journey probably started a good long time before that. Back in my early 20s, I was suffering from asthma, had lifelong chronic eczema, my mum was bringing me to doctors all the time, and no one ever said, look at your diet or look at your lifestyle or anything like that. It was just creams, steroid creams and stuff like that. So in my early 20s, I was interested in health, and I happened upon a few books and started reading, made some changes, very simply got rid of those symptoms. Eczema gone, asthma like 80% medication free, like literally in a matter of weeks. So that was where it all started for me. So that was the idea of, that was my first introduction to natural healing, and I haven't really looked back since. I've just kept learning. Probably, I got into this area as a career, or I made the decision about 8 years ago when my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and thankfully he's doing really well today. But that whole process really made me dig a little deeper than just the surface. And that's when I came across like the China study and those kind of books. And I found myself educating him. And I enjoyed the process of educating him, but I also felt really sad that the information I was giving him, nobody else was giving him. And I feel like it could have gone another way if that hadn't have happened. Unfortunately, it didn't, and everything went really, really well. But that whole process just really inspired me to want to share information that I was finding with other people. Just empower other people. That's really my whole mission, is to empower other people with information and tools. So I'm currently studying herbal medicine, and I practice as a nutritionist. And I began educating people in essential oils almost 2 years ago. And I started that, I was introduced to oils through my study of herbal medicine, looking at the history of herbal medicine. And that was the first introduction as essential oils as a form of medicine. I really never considered them as medicine. I thought of them just as cosmetics for beauty, therapy, that kind of thing. And through that, I latched onto the idea because I had 2 kids at the time. I have 3 now, and I was trying to give them my tinctures and my powders and my potions, and they're disgusting. They would not take them. So when I heard that you can help them by just diffusing oils and rubbing oils in their skin, I was hooked. But it was only when I started picking up oils initially in the health food store and the supermarket and places like that, and I was never really blown away by what happened. And it was only really when I discovered more about what was happening in the industry that I then started getting involved with doTERRA, and I started the education then. And I suppose some of the experiences that I've had, and I mentioned to you before the call that my daughter wasn't feeling well today, so I had to pick her up from school instead of letting her go home in the bus. And, in that situation, there's really not much you can do normally, as in, people, if they want to give over the counter stuff, and I've never wanted to, but what we did when we came in the door, I took out my oils, and I started putting the oils on her tummy and on her feet, and putting it on her neck to cool her down. And it's really empowering. I know that I can do something for her, and I know that it's going to help her. I'm very lucky in that my kids, thank goodness, have never been really sick, but when they do get sick, we deal with it in a matter of hours. It doesn't escalate into a problem, and they haven't missed any school or anything like that this year. It just doesn't happen. And I do believe it's because I'm doing things on a continuous basis to support their health, and I have tools in my home, and that's really what I love. It's just empowering other people and seeing them, do things for themselves, take back their power. And I love what you said at the beginning. It's really about, it starts in here. You take back your power. You acknowledge that you have the ability to heal yourself, and then everything else is tools to help you do that.
Yeah.
That's where plants come in.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for saying that. And my friends here who hear me say all the time, I'm all about empowering you. No one's going to do, heal you. You're the one doing your own healing. And it is all about taking our power back, that we struggled for such a long time because we didn't know that there were things that we could do. And more, I've been blessed in my family as well, that we have not, had much chronic illness, but still, of course, some of the headaches and the stress symptoms, which unfortunately are part of daily life, but also recognizing where some of the impact from long-term stress comes from. But the more educated I became, the more empowered I felt in terms of taking charge instead of, what are the things that I can do daily to prevent things from happening? It's that cultural, worldview shift that, oh my gosh, there are things that we can do on a daily basis to ensure our optimal health. Your body does a pretty good job on its own, but there are definitely certain things that maybe we are being exposed to in our environment that have been normalized for us. And I'd love for you to touch upon, even the cleaning products, because I think we don't recognize how toxic the air quality and the products in our home are. And that actually is something, we're being exposed to for decades, for a long time. We keep things, in the laundry room or underneath our sink, and we're inhaling those fumes.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's part of it.
I can't remember what the research came from, but our homes are estimated to be 200 to 500 times more toxic than the air outside our home. And again, with the levels of chronic illness that we have, and here in Ireland as well, I mean, the numbers are the same. Equally, it's terrible actually, cancer rates and heart disease and all that. But basically, we worry a lot about the things that we can't control, and we think, we have to do all of this stuff and it's companies that have the power and things like that. But you have control of everything that happens in your own home, and you can make very, very simple changes that make a massive difference. But I think people maybe aren't equipped with the knowledge initially, or they think that it's expensive, but it's really, really not. You know, and I would teach people just to take it one step at a time. When I started making my green cleaning products, I started off, I don't think I have it here beside me, with a spray bottle, and I made a disinfectant spray, and that's the spray that I use on my counters and I use in the fridges. And you know, there used to be a time when I was using other stuff and I'd have to tell the kids to move away if I was going to spray something, because I was always really conscious of them inhaling it. Even though I was still using it, I was still conscious of it. But now I can spray it, and I don't care if I spray it in their face or even in their mouth, because, you know, it's good for them. It's good for them. When I'm spraying my lemon around the counter, I know that lemon is really uplifting to the mood. I know that it's detoxifying the air as well. You know, and it's one simple thing. I'm one of those people, I didn't change overnight. I didn't change my diet overnight. And I even smoked back. I can't believe I smoked, but I did. And I didn't quit smoking overnight. I changed slowly. I take it one habit at a time. So I say to people, just do one thing, and when that's bedded in, move on to the next thing. And it creates momentum, and you can begin to move very fast. And these things are very simple, whether it's making up your cleaning products or making yourself a smoothie. When you do it once or twice and you bed in that habit, it's just like getting up and brushing your teeth. You know, you don't need a coach to tell you to brush your teeth in the morning. You don't need reminders, because it's just bedded in. But I guarantee you, I mean, I know because I'm doing it now, I'm chasing my 3-year-old around the house at night to get her teeth brushed. But I don't give up. It's non-negotiable. And it's getting easier and easier and easier. And my 8-year-old and my 9-year-olds, they'll do it now without me asking them, because I did that. It's the same with habits. Just do it once or twice and let it bed in. But definitely, just back to the toxicity of our homes, the dangers. I read a book recently called Medical Medium, actually. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's getting quite popular. And it's not the kind of book I usually read, but it really bedded in a couple of key things that are going on in our bodies that is contributing to a lot of mysterious illnesses and things like depression as well. And 2 key things was our toxic load, that from the moment we're conceived, we inherit toxins from our parents, from both of our parents. And from that moment on, it's just been added to. Toxins are being fed in through the placenta, and then we come into the world and everywhere we go. So it's just been added to all the time. You cut out there. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I lost connection there for a second. It went blank. Okay.
No worries.
So it's this kind of like, it's like a pinprick injury every day. Every day you're taking on more toxins. Every day your body is storing these in your cells. And this is what eventually arises with chronic health. It's one of the contributors to it. And that point was really, really hit home. And that's really where the oils come in, that they just get into our cells and they can detoxify our body. And that, along with good diet, if you can halt your toxic load and then do these things on a daily basis to detoxify your cells. I lost my train of thought a little bit there after that interruption.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's really my intent. That's my intent behind educating and using the oils in my own home.
Yeah. I love what you said, and I'm going to make a few of my friends here. I'm watching 2 screens. That's why I'm looking back and forth. I'm monitoring the questions over here and video over here. But what you said about your toddler, you know, because you know, a lot of what we're doing is about changing habits and changing behaviors and exchanging maybe something negative for a positive. And we talk a lot about actually working with our inner child. And so when you were saying you're chasing your child to make sure she brushes her teeth, it made me think of, you know, a lot of us are already doing that in some ways.
Yes.
You know, chasing that little child that doesn't think that she's lovable or, you know, wants attention. You know, so it falls nicely in the category of what we're talking about a lot again, to now we're becoming the parent, you know, taking better care of our bodies, you know, providing that nurturing and support that perhaps we didn't get, along with some of the education that you're sharing with us about how we can heal and feel empowered in our lives today. So, but you mentioned one point that I want to come back to, because I think that's such an important piece, when you said you use lemon to clean, because lemon helps us, it lifts the mood. So let's talk about the senses. Why is it the essential oils are so powerful? And then maybe we can talk about the few different ways people can use them, because yes, you can use them to clean, you can put them on your skin, or you can put them in a vaporizer, or you can put them into other products that, perhaps skincare products. So I know it's a lot to cover, but I think, the brain and the biology behind how essential oil works would be helpful for people to hear.
Yeah. The sense of smell is so important there. So the aroma, so just whether it's through a diffuser or whether you're smelling it from a product, or sometimes I might put a drop in my hand and smell it like that. But what's happening there is when those molecules are inhaled, they hit the part of your nose where there's a bulb, olfactory bulb. But it has a direct connection to the very center part of your brain. It's called the limbic area of your brain. It stores your memories. It controls your moods, your emotions, your stress responses, some of your hormonal responses as well. So within seconds, when you inhale that oil, there are chemical changes going on inside your brain straight away. Now, a lot of the time, a lot of people are interested in the physical benefits of that. So things like stress relief, reducing the stress hormones in your body, obviously respiratory as well. But if we get a little bit more into the emotional benefit there, I think if I just ask everyone a question, have you ever smelled something and just instantly been reminded of a person or a moment in time? Most people will have had that experience, and it happens in less time than you even know. It happens within a second. And that's how quickly that the oils and the smell gets into that part of your brain. Emotionally, that can be particularly powerful, because that's how essential oils, through the sense of smell, can help us reprogram our responses, our emotional responses. So that sense of smell, when dealing with emotions, trauma, memories, it's through the act of smell, and that's where the power comes from. I did a bit of training in this area last year, and it was described to me as our mind looks to create these neural pathways, like motorways, that is going to zoom along. As soon as an action happens, a stimulus, it's going to respond in that way. And basically over the course of your life, you're programmed, your body's looking for that. And by the time you hit adult, you've got those pathways going. But if you have a negative response, if somewhere along the line you've taught yourself to respond in a negative way, like maybe there's an action and your response is anxiety or stress, you need to create a new pathway to reprogram yourself, basically. Instead of going down that pathway, you're going to go this pathway. And it's the sense of smell that allows you to do that, because you're creating a new memory. You're using it works on two levels. The compounds of the oil themselves are going to make changes in there. But when you layer on top of that, using the essential oil really mindfully, really acknowledging that I feel this way, this negative way, and I have no reason to feel that way. I feel safe. I don't understand why that's going to happen. And then you just say, well, I'm going to choose your smell, maybe a particular smell that you're drawn to, or something that you've researched that you feel you want to use. Smell it mindfully, take a moment and acknowledge that this oil is going to create a new pathway. It's going to make you feel differently, so you respond differently. And that's really the power of oils with emotions. And in terms of feeling empowered, and I guess I do get a lot of people ask me for a cure, what oil cures this? And I'm very quick to say, no oil is going to cure that. You're going to cure yourself, and the oils are going to be the tool to do that. So in terms of emotions, and we know in this group that emotional stuff really is at the root of chronic illnesses, but unfortunately that stuff is buried so deep, people find it really hard to get in touch with it. So it's easy to say to a sick person, well, you need to deal with your emotional stuff, it's at the bottom, it's at the root cause of your concern. But what did they do with that information? Like, that's pretty hard. It's easier said than done, But it's through the process of smelling the oils. And the way it was described to me is, if that negative emotion was a weed in your garden, and you go out to your garden to try and weed and tidy it up, imagine there's a drought, and you try to pull the weed out, and the ground is really, really dry, and you pull that root, but it tears, and it doesn't come out, and you really have to work at it. If you water that ground, and that ground becomes really, really soft, and you go to pull that root out, you can just swoop that root out, the whole weed with the roots and everything with it, and it's completely gone. So it's like the essential oils are softening the ground for you, so that you can come in and recognize that negative emotion and weed it out. and put it out. So it's a very much a partnership. It's using the oils to help you, but you have to really take responsibility for removing that weed that you don't want in your mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really appreciate that visual. And I want to ask that question to the group if this was helpful, because a few of them responded to your question and said, yes, definitely, we can relate to what the example that you gave when you asked, have you, been somewhere and smelled something and immediately it takes you to a place. I mean, that can be a good thing, but also for a lot of us with trauma and PTSD, it can be a negative thing. So I think what you just kind of walked us through was really, really, really helpful. And again, there is no quick fix, right? There is no magic pill here, but the truth is, we empower ourselves, we take care of ourselves, and with awareness, and then using tools like essential oils, like you said, you all of a sudden you start to see the weeds in the garden, and then you tend to them the same way you maybe would the beautiful flower next to it, because you want to make sure you understand the weed so you can get the whole thing out, right? Not just pull out, what you see, because there is roots and it does go deeper. So I think a couple of people have commented here. That was a really good visual, a picture that you painted for them to help them understand. And that's really, on so many levels, is how we heal and help our bodies. Your nervous system, your biology, in some ways, it's hardwired to go after optimal health, but it is those tension points or those, hard feelings that we've been keeping in for so long that we don't even see them anymore, that continue to get in the way. So. And
it's a good point there, actually, just in terms of how the body responds, because I'm aware that where there's deep trauma, I have had experiences where people smell the oil and sometimes they think they're allergic to it, or they just say, oh, I'm allergic to it, it doesn't make me feel good, or something like that. And that really is the power, the healing power of the oils, because what happens is, again, the memories are stored there and emotions are stored there. So it's to really, sometimes we have a tendency to not want to feel negative feelings. And I know here in Ireland, we have a strong history of suppressing and emotions not being talked about and not being felt. But then there's the other angle of not wanting to feel a negative emotion. So it's kind of training ourselves to think, okay, it's okay to feel this negative emotion. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. So again, it's layering on top of it all these different skills to acknowledge that if I allow myself to feel this emotion, because when you begin using essential oils, particularly where there's trauma, it can uproot things that make you feel uncomfortable. And that can manifest as a physical uncomfortable feeling, but the awareness of what the memory is or what it is, won't be at the conscious level, let's say. So I think it's important that people know, rather than just suppressing that back down, that they allow themselves for that feeling to come to the surface, in the knowledge that it will pass. And if they can let it pass and sit with it, then that is part of the healing process. That is the releasing of that emotion. And I've had experiences where people find it too difficult, makes them feel too uncomfortable. And I think when people know what's going on, they feel a lot more comfortable, rather than going, oh, it's an allergy, or they just don't work for me. I've actually been at events where someone has asked me to turn off the diffuser because it's not making them feel well. And my understanding of it now, after doing a bit of training in that area, is that that's what's happening there. But they just feel a physical discomfort. So I think it's important to have awareness.
Yeah, exactly. Our body is very wise. And that is actually, I think, the beauty of the healing journey. When you get educated, you start to understand how that biology that has protected you and kept you safe also has the same inherent wisdom to, it needs to bring out the toxicity in a way, those negative feelings that we've often labeled as bad feelings, because we don't see anybody communicating it or expressing them in a healthy way. We feel like there's something wrong with us for having them. But once we create the space, and often just going through the process a couple times, kicking and screaming sometimes, but once you understand it, it's like you're laying down a new road, like you started with earlier, laying down that wiring and that body memory of, okay, I'm just having my feelings. I guess there's something coming up here that needs to get out. We don't have to dig out the deep memory, but the sensation of what the body is holding, that's what it's trying to release for us. So again,
you made a good point there about our biology. We're programmed, you know, it's our survival to remember the negative stuff, the dangerous stuff, and to not remember the positive stuff. And it's an amazing tactic, I guess, but unfortunately it's hard in today's life.
Exactly.
So that reprogramming is really important.
Yep. So I'm leaning over here and watching some of the questions. Somebody here would help to have some examples of what oils we can use, where we could source them and information about them. And so my question would be, let's say if somebody is struggling with some anxiety or maybe with sleep, you know, those are some of the common issues that we see, you know, when we're struggling with trauma. It's hard for the body to relax. So can you make some suggestions for us?
Absolutely. And you know, if you're not sleeping, your body isn't healing. Your body heals when you're sleeping. So that's absolutely vital. So a couple of things then. I mean, for sleep, particular blends would be lavender, would be kind of a well-known one for sleep and for stress. There are some specific blends. We do have a restful blend, and there's another blend, soothing blend as well, which is deep blue, which is actually, it's an unusual one for sleep, but I get a lot of really positive feedback on people who struggle to get to sleep or struggle to get into a deep sleep. They will be the first ones. And then I think somebody asked there just different ways of using the oils. And one of the most important blends in my house is what I call, it's an immune balm basically. And I use it as soon as I start to feel sick, or as one of my kids start to feel sick. And it is oregano, or do you say oregano or oregano? We say it differently. So oregano is a very powerful antibacterial and antiviral oil. So that's the one, I use all my oils all the time, but oregano I tend to just take out when somebody's sick. So oregano, melaleuca, which is tea tree, lemon, frankincense, those oils together along with, it's the On Guard blend, it's a protective blend. They make up what we call an immune balm, and that's what I reach for. So that's a key blend that I would use in my house.
How would you use them, Lorna? How do you use them? I mean,
for an adult, I would use it in the 3 different ways. So there's 3 ways of using the oil. So we talked about the smell. So I'm going to diffuse those so that everybody is smelling them, and it's cleaning the air in our home as well. It's clearing the pathogens in the air or anything that's been brought in. The second way is topically. So I would mix it into, here's my immune blend here. I would mix it into a roller bottle.
Okay.
And I put a carrier oil with it. And then for overall body support, I would rub it on the soles of our feet and the kids' feet. And within 45 minutes, the oil will get into every cell in our body. So it's getting into every cell and supporting us that way. So that's what I do. And then the third way I would usually only do for myself, like for adults, is the internal way. So what I would do is I would take those oils and put them into an empty capsule, a little blank capsule, 1 to 2 drops of each, and then take that internally every couple of hours. So that's kind of the medicinal uses of it. Just talking about how to source the oils, there's a few things that I only discovered a couple of years ago about the essential oil industry. And as I mentioned, I'm studying herbal medicine, and herbal medicine in the States and here is highly regulated. So I have to get a license to practice, and I can't buy anything unless I have my license, and then I dispense it. But essential oils actually got separated in law, and they come under cosmetics law now instead of herbal medicine. So under cosmetics law basically means there's no regulation of the market. So there's no standards, there's no industry standards in there. So when you're sourcing your oils, usually you pick up a bottle and it will say pure, it will say natural, it might even say organic, but those labels are very, very loosely used. There's no regulation behind that at all. So the key thing when you're looking for your oils, the company that I work with is doTERRA. And because there is no what would I say, industry standards, they created a standard called Certified Pure Therapeutic Grade. That's a standard that they created to try and lead the industry and try and improve the quality of the oils. And that all starts with where the plant comes from. So for example, the essential oil, I didn't actually say this at the beginning, but the function of an essential oil in a plant is that it is the immune system of the plant. It's what the plant has been given to defend itself. So we have hands, we have legs, we can run, we can fight. That's part of our mechanism. they're stationary. So they use essential oils to fight off threats, to fight off bacteria, fungus, viruses, insects. They use it to attract. So it can attract animals to it that might help it fend off those as well. But if you compare two plants, for example, a lavender plant that's grown in the native region in Bulgaria or in France where it's native, if you go into your local flower shop and you buy a lavender plant and it's sitting in your house and you're watering it and you're weeding it and you're protecting it basically, it doesn't have to fight for its resources. Chemically, those plants are going to be very different. So the oil from those plants is going to be very different, even if it's pure. Chemically, it's going to be different. So the plant that's grown out in the wild, that's the native species. So there's a lot of messing going on with our plants where plants have been modified, new species are created. So the native species and in the region where it's native, that's where you're going to get a really powerful, pure essential oil. And then from that point on, the oil is protected, that it's not tampered with, there's no contaminants, no herbicides or anything like that used on the plants too. One of the organizations that will be worth noting is the Aromatic Plant Research Center. And it's an independent company that do testing. So they literally go out into the marketplace and they pick up oils and they test them to see what's in them. And what they publish is that 80% of the oils in the market are totally synthetic. So when they test them, there's a smell, they replicate the smell, but there's no pure essential oil in it at all. And then the next kind of 10 to 15% is a food grade. And food grade is usually where it's being diluted with an edible oil. So it'll start off with some pure oil, and then it'll be diluted after that. The next grade is therapeutic, and they'll usually be bottles where you see organic on the label. And then you have the certified pure grade. And the difference between one and the other is, the best way to explain it is, if I go into my supermarket and I buy organic, I always choose to buy organic. So when I go in and I pick up something organic and I see, for example, our apples are coming from New Zealand, right, halfway across the world. They're picked 10 to 12 months before I see them. They're picked before they're ripe, and then they're exposed to fumigation as they're transported across the world, and then wrapped in plastic, and they arrive in the supermarket and I pick them up, okay? It's organic, but it's far from perfect. If I go out to my garden where I have apple trees, if an apple falls at my feet, that apple is perfect. It's perfectly ripe. It is the prime time to eat that apple. Those apples are very, very different chemically, and the nutritional content of each of them is going to be different. And that's where the quality of the oils comes into play. So organic is not necessarily best. It just means that it's free from herbicides or it's been grown to a certain standard. Because again, organic standards are different in different countries, and it doesn't guarantee you that no contamination has occurred. So what we do with our oils is they're all grown natively. They're all extracted on site, and then they're tested. And when they're tested, if they don't meet that standard, they don't ship. So they have to be 100% free from pesticides and herbicides. When they arrive over in Utah, in doTERRA, where they're based, they're tested again. And then before that cap is put on the bottle, they're tested again to make sure that it's pure. And there is, a lot of people would ask me about specific brands. And I'm not in the business of running down any other company, and I would say, well, I don't know anything about that other brand. And the only thing I could say to them is that there's full traceability on the oils that I use, which is doTERRA. There's a batch number on the bottom of every bottle, and you can go into a website where the Aromatic Plant Research Institute publish all of the test results. So all I can say is that this is the only company that are being 100% transparent about the quality of their oils. So I don't mean to run anyone else down, only to say that I don't know, and we don't know, because that information is not published. Yeah. So that's something important to keep in mind. I do have a lot of resources on my website there for anyone that wants to learn more. So I think you have put the link up already there. Mm-hmm. And if anyone, sorry, I'm jumping ahead there. Is there more questions there as I've been talking?
Well, I just really appreciate you being thorough and explaining some things here that, you know, we don't normally hear. As just as a regular consumer who's, you know, curious and interested, that you kind of walked us through what you started with is like, you know, what's the essence of the oil. And I loved what you said about it's actually when the plant is it's fighting for itself, you know. That's
its immune system, basically.
Exactly. Its immune system, and that's what it's passing on to us. And that's actually something that I've been learning, you know, as a vegan, over the last few years, really starting to understand, you know, plants, what plants we're eating and why we're eating them. What is the quality that this plant is actually passing on to you, and your system, you know, benefits from it. And my husband and I were laughing. We're on a kale kick right now, of course, early in the year, everybody's cleansing, right? And, you know, here in Portland, Oregon, which it's been frozen, it's been cold, but there's a little community garden out here, and the kale is still out there, green and firm, and like, okay. And so we were standing looking at it, it's like, this is why you eat kale, right? Its defense system is pretty hardy.
Yeah.
So when you eat kale, that's actually what you're feeding into your system. So
that's a really good analogy. I like that.
Yeah, so it helped me. So that's why, yeah, I'm going to continue to eat kale, because I want to be that tough. Help my system to defend off.
Amazing.
You know, what's going on inside. So really, thank you for explaining that, and you know, what is it about the oils that we're benefiting from. So, and also, as we know, there's, you know, I don't know, one of the things when I came to America from Iceland, you know, going to the grocery store, there's a whole aisle of, there's 50 different products, right? And I'm like, I get so easily overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my gosh, can you do something? 3? Do I have to choose from 50? So, but what you said is that, you know, do a little bit of homework in terms of research. You know, if you're going to invest in a quality product, make sure that it is going to give you the benefits that it's telling you on the bottle that it's going to get. Not everybody, like you just mentioned some of the names that are very generously put on labels, and unfortunately that's really not what the product is. To make sure that it's going to do what you're hoping it's going to do. So thank you for explaining that for us very, very well.
With the right oils, just one of your listeners there just asked about the uses. So maybe just to expand a bit more on that.
Yep.
I mean, the first level of usage really, I suppose with my own personal experience and what I see is that I had a desire to not use medication and not use synthetics. Because when you take those synthetics into your body immediately sees it as an invader, and it builds up an immune response to it. So where people are consistently taking medications, they become immune to it and have to go to stronger doses and stronger medications. So I had a really strong need I didn't want to give that stuff to my kids. And, you know, on that point, and you said before we started our talk, there is a place for medicine. And, you know, when my youngest was 1 year old, she broke her leg. And we brought her into the A&E, and she was given an over-the-counter painkiller. And I didn't question it for a second, but, you know, she was given a teaspoonful and she was out like a light. And they thought that there was nothing wrong with her because it worked. She never had it before. Her body had no immunity to it. So one little teaspoon was all she needed to give her relief. And that's precisely when you need it. And that's why I want to use this other stuff, so that God forbid if they need it in other times, that, you know, it will work when they actually need it. So when I first started using them, it was my medicine cupboard. It was coughs, colds, immune support, anything you can think of, tummy bugs, all that kind of thing. That was the first kind of usage. After that, I started learning more about the emotional uses, the mood, how it affects our mood, stress. But pretty much nature has given us solutions for everything. So there is a plant-based solution for everything out there. Excuse me. And so I take a little drink of water. So for day-to-day stuff like focus, concentration, and to support your body through chronic illness, through trauma, the essential oils, plants will work to support you in all of those areas. And then obviously we talked about the green cleaning products. So when you're using green cleaning products, two things are happening. You're cutting out the toxins that are in your home, so you're stopping adding to your toxic load. But then you're taking them into your body as you're using them as well. So that's helping your body detoxify. Skincare is probably one of my favorite uses of it. I add it into my skincare. So when I put the creams on my skin, I'm smelling it, it's soaking into my bloodstream. I'm getting all the benefits of it, even though I'm using it for the purpose of skin. So there, I mean, if you come into my home, you will literally see oils at every sink and in every room, and a diffuser in every room as well.
That's powerful. And there is such a big variety in ways to use it. And again, I like what you said earlier, just start small, start, in one area, and then slowly start to see where you can add it instead of being overwhelmed with, I need to make a big change, all at once. So, but I appreciate what you've shared. But can you also remind our listeners? I'm very impatient. I want fast results, and I think we've been trained to expect, like quick fix, even though we've said it. So what can people expect if they are using an oil? Let's say that they're going to try lavender to help them perhaps fall asleep at night. How long is it until they can? How will it work for them? I mean, does it build over time? And where should they put it on their bodies? Also one person asked, what can I use to help me fall asleep and stay asleep? Because so often what happens for people at night when we have trauma, it doesn't take much for our body to get triggered, and then we wake up and then we struggle with falling back asleep. Okay.
There are quick wins. So there's lots of people that will use them for day-to-day stuff and feel relief within seconds. Where you're dealing with something more chronic, you really have to commit yourself to consistently use them on an ongoing basis. So for something like sleep, obviously you want to get a quick win, but if the body's struggling to get into that restful state, you really want to be doing things during the day that's going to help your health, that's going to help you get into that restful state at night. So starting by diffusing oils at night, diffusing lavender or serenity or deep blue, and that's that smell that's going to help you there. Putting them on the soles of your feet will help them get into the body as well. But also using oils during the day in different ways, because again, you're just supporting your body to detoxify by using them during the day. It's getting into that part of your brain that's controlling your moods and your stress responses. So everything is going to lead towards balance, which is what we're going towards, balance basically. So things like using frankincense during the day. Frankincense is powerful for the brain, for physically on the brain, but emotionally on the brain, for anxiety. I see a lot with all the people I've been working with essential oils. I see two kind of users, okay? One user will kind of keep them in the cupboard and take them out when there's a problem. And they get the quick win, and that's fine. But then I see other people who just embrace the lifestyle. And one of my very first customers, she rang me 6 months after getting the oils. And we had connected online, and we didn't have a very deep conversation. Excuse me. So I didn't really know the purpose. Sorry, I'm after getting a tickle in my throat.
That's okay. Take your time. I know how you feel. You love it when it happens. We're in the middle of a video.
And this is how I'm going to take the opportunity to show you how I use peppermint. So I'm just going to licking a little bit off my hand there.
You're brave. You're putting it on your hand.
Yeah, it's just one of my favorite ways to use it.
All right.
This lady, she rang me and she said, I wouldn't say this to anyone else, and I didn't say it to my family because I don't think they'll get it, but I think you'll get it. She said, I lost my husband 10 years ago and I couldn't move on. I couldn't let go, and I couldn't move on with my life. I felt like I felt guilty every time I did something. I felt like other people were pulling me back. And she said since she started using the oils, she thinks that the oils have helped her let go of her grief. She just feels like a totally different person. Now, she didn't ring me and say, have you an oil for grief? When she got her kit, she just got the oils and she started embracing the lifestyle. And I said, what are you doing? And she says, well, I'm using peppermint on my toothbrush to brush my teeth. I'm diffusing the On Guard every day. I'm putting lemon in my water. And she wasn't doing it necessarily with the intent of moving past her grief. That was a very powerful side effect that she got. And I believe that happened because the oils were just getting into her body and helping her release physical and emotional toxins that are stored in there. And I think that's the best example. I know people want quick wins. They want to know what one thing can I do that's going to make me sleep. I always try to teach people to step back from that and look at the bigger picture and see, well, how can you do things throughout your whole day that's going to help your body fall asleep at night. And food is obviously a big factor there as well. Having a good diet is going to help too. And that's why it's about teaching the lifestyle, to make people feel really comfortable using them, so that they find themselves using them 10, 20, 30 times a day. They're the people that come to me and say they have experienced a massive change in their life. Even if it wasn't, in that example, it wasn't, she wasn't using them to get over her grief. She didn't know that they could possibly help her in that way. But I think that's a great example of, I hope that helps your listeners understand where I'm coming from and how to use them.
Yeah, that was lovely. That beautiful story and a great example. Grief is definitely something that we have to process quite a bit of, right? Especially if we have childhood abuse and trauma. And along with what you shared, she was tending to her body. She was helping, being more focused on maybe supporting herself and creating a healthy lifestyle. And maybe even just the side effect, right, to giving herself a little more attention, being more present as she was exploring what oils are going to make me feel better, right? Instead of focusing on the grief or the sadness, it's important to feel it, but it also helped her then to focus on, I'm being intentional about taking better care of myself, and just that act alone and simple daily focus is key. And just the same thing said about sleep. It is, your body naturally wants to fall asleep, but what are the things that we're doing that kind of gets in the way of our body being able to get that restful sleep? And of course, many of us have that chronic tension. So it's not until we're exhausted that we'll pass out in a way. So find a balance.
Okay. Other oils then, because that question has come up a couple of times. So other than lavender, florals and woody oils are a really nice combination for sleep. So vetiver and lavender, cedar wood as well is another good one too.
Yeah.
So there are other oils that somebody could try.
Yeah.
They're a good combination.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I just want to say, if people aren't asking the questions or hearing the answer to their particular question, your website is just a wealth of resources. And I want to say to our audience, your website has a lot of information, a lot of resources. And every time I get your emails now, I open them because there's something new that I'm learning in there. So I really, really.
Thank you. My mom was looking for her keys there. I took the keys of her car.
Hey, it's part of life. If it isn't the kids walking in, then it's the cats, or or our partners need something, and it's part of life. This is how our world is. One thing I wanted to mention, because it caught my attention, and you mentioned it, I think, on your website, is candles. A lot of us love to burn candles. Yeah. And so I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that, what to look for when we're using candles.
Yeah, so the problem with candles is what's called phthalates, and they are hormone interrupters, basically. That we take them into our body and they mimic hormones, and they send our own natural hormones crazy. So that's one of the main problems with them. There's other things like lead in them and paraffin. So when you're burning that candle, it's like you're just creating a diesel engine in your own home. It's just creating you're inhaling it, and it's affecting those hormone interrupters are getting into that part of your brain and causing a problem there. So it's again, some people can feel very overwhelmed with that information because they go, oh no, it's one more problem that I have to try to fix. It's really easy. I mean, throw out the candles, or if you are going to buy candles that you love them that much, just get natural beeswax. And again, you have to be really cautious with the labeling. Make sure it says 100% beeswax, because again, if it doesn't say 100%, it can be part beeswax, and you're running into the same problems there. So, I mean, there are real challenges out there for the consumer, and, we do need to push our authorities for better labeling, so that as a consumer, when you try to make an informed decision, that you are getting all of the information, because a lot of the time we're not getting all of the information. Again, with no regulation in the cosmetics industry, you're not getting any of that information. But a really simple thing, I mean, just don't get those cheap candles. They're not going to be any good. They're going to be totally synthetic. Beeswax, if you're going to use candles, 100% beeswax. Alternatives will be, I mean, obviously diffusing them. you get that effect, you get that smell. So that's a very, very safe way of getting a smell into your home, or that nice.
What about soy? I've heard about soy-based candles. Have you?
Yeah, so the soy itself is has a very, very strong smell. So as a result of that strong smell, more phthalates are put in. So the role of a phthalate, it's part of a natural fragrance. So anything that is not a natural fragrance, a synthetic fragrance. So anything that is fragranced is made from phthalates. So the soybean appears to be a natural option, but when you look behind that, because of its strong smell, it's actually heavily fragranced, even more so. So it is heavy on the phthalates there. And I suppose the good thing is that phthalates can be released from our body quite quickly, but they do. The real sinister thing about these chemicals is that when we take them into our body, we don't immediately feel an illness. We don't necessarily feel something. It's the long-term exposure to it that the problem is. So it's these subtle things that are going in our body that we don't see a connection between the candle or the air freshener or the toilet cleaner. We don't see the connection because it's so slow and it's so long. But the even more concerning thing is that is passed on to our children. And it's the next generation that we're now really starting to see the effects of those chemicals. Yeah. So candles is my topic this week. And that's just one more innocent little thing that's in our home that is contributing to our toxic load.
Yeah. Well, I just learned something new because I was, starting to use more soy-based candles, but I have had that question wondering, so because they do say they have some fragrance, right? It's like, well, where does that come from? Is that even good or healthy? So I love candles, but I've cut back.
Yeah. Under that word fragrance, again, there could be 3,000 chemicals underneath that word fragrance. So when you see that word, don't go there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for explaining that. And because I know my people. I know I'm not the only one who loves candles. I'm like, I think we need to talk about that. So, and also just your point here, we don't feel the immediate toxicity, and the truth is maybe we've been doing something for years, or even for decades, and it's normalized in our system, and we are slowly feeling worse and worse and worse, or getting sick, but we don't feel it because it happens so slowly and so subtly, right? And the same thing I like to think about, healing and restoration and empowering your body and getting healthy. It's going to happen slowly. Sometimes you'll feel, fantastic right away, but more so over time. And that's really the change that we do want. We want, nothing drastic, because chances are we will go back to our old ways, or the body, something got shifted immediately, like your daughter with her medicine, right? But over time, we want to, help our body, get healthy and empower itself to be able to detox and pull in from our environment what it needs for us to have a healthy, well-balanced life, where we're sleeping, where we are eating good food, right? And we're drinking in, good water, clean water, or healthy liquids, and adding maybe some supplements there that we aren't getting from our diets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So, you made a good point there about detox, actually, because if people aren't aware of the symptoms of detox, they can think, oh, it's not working, I feel worse instead of feeling better. But it is typical. It's a healing crisis. We all know what it is, but sometimes when people feel it, they totally forget that it's a healing crisis. So I think it's important for people to know that. Yeah. But you can go slow. I mean, where there's heavy illness, where there's heavy trauma, I think you can go slow, that you don't have to experience that, but just to be aware of why things don't feel good when they're coming to the surface, but you have to let them come to the surface in order to release and move on from them.
Exactly. And thank you for bringing that, our attention to that again. It is that detox, your body actually getting rid of something, anybody who's done any type of cleanse, or, you talked about smoking. I was a smoker. you know, for a long time, and it was so hard to detox or to stop, you know, not just the toxicity or what I was addicted to, but also the behaviors around it, right? So it's multifaceted in terms of how things may get more uncomfortable before they get better. And sometimes just our awareness, now we just see them, now we just feel them, now we're more aware of how it's showing up on our lives, even though it may have been there all along, but now you're just opening up your consciousness to be open to process it so you can let it go. So thank you for helping us on so many levels to understand that. So I think we're going to wrap up here, but I did post the link again in the group to your website. Like I said, your website is a wealth of resource. I want to invite you to tell our group here where they can find you, if you have any events coming up that they could check out and learn more from you. And already, I know you had a free guide that talked in deeper detail about some of the questions that we were trying to answer. So, but I'd love for you to share where people can find you and
yeah, well, probably the first best place to go would be my website. So I've created a little ebook and a natural medicine cupboard. And then there's a series of lessons on essential oils and how they work in the body. And that's a nice little introduction to it. Also, I'm available for consultations for free. So if anybody in the group, you know, has specific questions that they didn't get answered today and they want to know, will oils help me? Can they help with particular things? You can contact me directly and book a free class with me. And that is a free service. And that's just giving you the information that you need. And then they can decide if it's something that they want to try or not. So just message me through the Facebook group or through my website and my emails. Perfect.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. It's very, very generous of you. And like I think our listeners know that they can feel your energy and your heart and your passion in it for this, that they can see why you and I connected.
Yeah.
I'm always on a mission to bring more information, more tools to empower each and every one of us to live both an authentic life, but also to, you know, optimize our health and wellness, because I think that's key for, you know, good life, for good living. When we feel good, we, you know, are better citizens of the world. So to help each other out there. So thank you so much, Lorna, for the work that you do, and that you had to run around and make it work with your kids being sick. And
okay. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for doing the work that you do as well. It's amazing. The community you have here and the support is fantastic.
Thank you. Well, as you know, it's we all do what we can. And I've been blessed to find amazing people to hang out with. And so it's a win-win. I love what I do, and I love my friends that are here in this space.
Good. Amazing. Well
All
done.
right, my friends, it is Friday. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. Hope this was supportive and informative. And I will be posting this link later on to YouTube so you can re-watch it there. But you can also continue in this thread with any questions, and I'll make sure if Lorna sees them, or I'll make sure she gets them. And please check out the website, beautiful website.
Thank you. Feel free to tag me in anything if you have any questions.
Okay, awesome. We'll do that. Thank you so much. All right, my friends, let's see. I'm trying to look for the link here. Until next time.